Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I'm Jordan.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm at.
It's really coming down to the wire, especially in baseball and softball. It feels like we have 2 weeks left of the regular season, and none of these league races are even close to decided. It feels like. I mean, the FBL, the first place and the last place team are separated by 2 games. No one's gotten a sweep yet. The last place team just took 2 out of 3 from the first place team. I mean, the SFL teams are still fighting for those final playoff spots. It feels like everywhere, the CAL as well, everything's tight in baseball. I mean, it feels like, you take one day off and all of a sudden the whole playoff picture is changed. But hey, it's going to be another big, crazy week for us. Aaron, let's start with you, I guess. Where were you at last week and what did you see from the games you were at?
Yeah. Last Monday, I was going to go to a volleyball match. It was going to be Lincoln River Valley, but that actually ended up getting canceled. So instead, my first event that I actually went to was on Tuesday of last week, which was I announced Lincoln and Oakmont baseball. The Zebras won 4-3 behind solid pitching by Jackson Cook and Xavier Maldonado. Cook also hit a homer over the center field fence. I had already written my athlete of the week piece on him at that point, so I couldn't even add that into there. I mean, that just he continues to do great stuff for that team. So Lincoln won that game. They actually ended up going on to lose the other 2 games of the series, and I'll get into the other game in a little bit. But then after that baseball game, I went over to Whitney for boys volleyball, and surprisingly, even though Whitney's ranked as one of the top 4 teams in the section, they actually lost in 4 sets to Folsom, and Folsom just did a great job on the blocking front. Their serving was phenomenal as well. Whitney did struggle with serve receive. They still had a solid attack. Kel Cochran had 16 kills for Whitney, but again, Folsom was just super solid. Merk Ubag had 11 kills. So Folsom with a big win there over Whitney. And then so they had still have a chance to finish second in the SFL. Wednesday, something came up for me. So then Thursday, I was at lacrosse for Whitney versus Rockland. Whitney won this one 11-3. It was senior night. It was the Corey Faceoff final game of the regular season. And Caden Smith for Whitney is the only 4-year varsity starter on that team. The team started in 19-20, which was a limited season because of COVID. But Smith had 4 goals in this game. He's actually going to be going to UNR. Another fun thing, even though Rockland lost the game, the whole Whitney Stadium saying happy birthday to Coach JT Mortara after the game, which was, of course, I feel like whenever there's 80% of people, whenever there's something like public happy birthday, they look super embarrassed, but that was pretty funny to watch. So took some photos out there yeah, and so Whitney won that one, and they are 11-6 going into their league tournament this week.
All right, I like it. It feels like lacrosse even too. Everything's come down to the wire, and it's a great time of year when you get the playoffs and everything, and you gotta love a good happy birthday shout out. Matt, over to you. I know you were at some lacrosse a little bit this week, but what were some of the games you were at, and talk about what you saw?
Yeah, Monday I went to check out Vista Lodge on Rio Americano. 2 teams battling, still for the top spot there. This game was interesting because it's the first game I ever went to that there was a forfeit involved. The Rio head coach is not there; he was out sick, and the athletic director was taking his place, and he didn't know the rules. And apparently, the assistant coaches didn't know the rules. This Rio Americano's pitcher, no pitcher is allowed to throw more than 110 pitches. And Rio Americano's pitcher threw 100. His 110th pitch was, a ball four to a Vista player in the top of the 7th inning. And Rio was leading 3-1. So they had 1 out, 3, and they were leading 3-1. And then he threw 3 more pitches. Vista's coach was on top of it all over it. He knew how many pitches he threw. After that batter hit a double, he doubled, and he went up to umpire. And I guess he said, "Hey, he threw over 110 pitches," and they finished the game. Vista lost 3-1, but they forfeited because no one knew the rule that you can't throw 110 more pitches. So that was kind of nifty.
That's a new one. I can't say I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, what was the reaction of the crowd like? I mean, I imagine Rio parents weren't thrilled, but also it's like, well, that's the rule.
Yeah, I mean, from what I was told, the Vista coach Sal Rivera told me the AD came over to him. He was, he goes, "Hey, I just didn't know the rule." Like, and apparently he explained to him that my assistant coaches didn't know the rule either. So they said they weren't trying to pull fast one, they weren't trying to slip anything under. They just didn't know the rule, and like there was no announcement was made, so I don't know. There was no really crowd reaction, but
Okay.
yeah. So it was this was like, okay, we got the win, so they were happy about that.
Hey,
They would go on to lose the next two games though, so as it were. So we're still in the series, but nice little win for them anyway. Wednesday, Vista Girls, it's not at this game. Vista Girls softball played Franklin, two of the top teams in the league in the area. Vista coming off a loss the previous Saturday to Ponderosa. Franklin had lost to Del Oro that Friday before, and then they lost the next day to St. Francis. So they were coming off two consecutive losses. Vista won this game 9-3, so it was Franklin's third straight loss in a row. Vista, a big win to come back from losing their first game, and then to win by 6 runs was a nice feather in their cap there. Annabella has they threw their number 3 pitcher. That's how deep the pitching is, and they still won 9-3. She held Franklin to 3 runs, and offensively she knocked in 3 runs herself. Morgan Sweet had 3 hits and 2 RBIs. Charlize Kai and Ava Major both had 2 hits and 1 RBI, as Kai doubled and tripled and scored 3 times. So that was a big win for Vista. Folsom defeated Granite Bay in Game 2 of that series, 5-1 on Wednesday. They would ultimately lose Friday and lose the series 2-1, but Folsom did take 1 game from them. And Oak Ridge surprisingly lost 2 to Del Oro before winning the 3rd one. So that was a big surprise. But Whitney, I believe, lost Monday. So or lost. They lost Monday. They lost Friday. They lost the game.
Lost Friday.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So they're still within a game of Whitney. So that's why up to Wednesday. I can talk about Thursday next time around.
all right, I like it. Well, my Monday, I know we talked about at the show. I was at Golden One Center actually doing a story on that about Kings and Warrior fans in that whole playoff series. So my high school coverage got started Tuesday with Placer and Nevada Union. Placer ended up taking 2 out of 3 in this series, but game 1 was probably the best game of the series. It happened to be the one I was at. Placer got on Nevada Union early. They scored in the first inning. I think they got up to a 2-0 lead, and then the Miners had a 4-run 4th inning take a 4-2 lead. Placer ends up they ended up getting 1 back, and interestingly enough, they should have tied it. There was and I don't normally say that I don't normally talk about officiating in this, but this play, a player on Placer beat out an infield single. He beat the pitcher. It looked like at the very least it was a tie, but it looked like he beat him by about a half second. And that would have brought home the tying run in the 6th inning. And instead he was called out for the 3rd out. And I mean, Placer's dugout lost it. And in my opinion, it was rightfully so. I don't think the field umpire was in a great position to make the call. And it cost Placer a run. So they're coming in the 7th inning trailing 4-3. And it looked like, hey, we could be in trouble. Placer has the bases loaded, and Aiden Gill is staring at an 0-2 count after chasing 2 pitches outside the zone. You're like, oh man, this is, writing's on the wall. And Aaron, if you're an A's fan, I think that whole situation I just described gives both of us PTSD. But Gale stepped out of the box, regrouped, and he battled back to a full count and ended up drawing a walk to bring the tying run home. And then next at bat, Mason Zarelli hits a line drive to center field on another 2-strike count, which scored Cohen Meyer and Cam Staten and put Placer up 6-4. Hillman drove 1 more home off a sac fly from Brody Seminoff. And then Jack Williamson came in and he earned his 2nd save of the season on just 8 pitches. The first time I saw Williamson pitch, he's a junior. It was the Roseville game that Placer lost. He actually made the start in that. And he really struggled. In what I saw from Williamson in this outing versus what I saw at the beginning of the year was night and day different. I mean, you could tell he has some confidence all of a sudden. I think he's seen what varsity baseball looks like a little bit. And he had a great outing and ended up cementing the save. Placer ended up winning game 2, 12-5. They lost game 3, 5-3 in that, but a big one there. And then another big one that I will go. I wasn't at the game, but I just want to give a shout out to the team for a couple big weeks coming up. Del Oro baseball had a huge week. I mean, this is just, I guess, example of what the SFL is. Del Oro gets so Oak Ridge sweeps Rockland. Del Oro gets swept by Rockland. So it's looking like, okay, Del Oro's got Oak Ridge this week. The Oak Ridge is going to put the nail in the coffin. Del Oro's season is over. Instead, Del Oro takes 2 out of 3 from Oak Ridge, including run rolling them one game. Oak Ridge took the series finale on Friday. Dio played Whitney close last night, but lost 5-2. And, again, just goes to show what the SFL looks like, where anyone can win on any given day. And then Dio softball as well, they kind of looked after a couple games like they were dead in the water a little bit. And then they had a big weekend against Franklin Granite Bay. They came back, they beat Rockland on Monday, beat Folsom in both games last week. They did lose to Granite Bay, and then they came back and beat Lincoln in a non-league game on Monday. But that's a team all of a sudden that's surging and, looks like they're going to be a force to be reckoned with if they can get into those D2 playoffs. And I think, like we said before the show, just goes to show how deep some of these leagues are and how really there's nobody that really can be considered a true runner. I feel like we're going to see some upsets this postseason, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Well, hey, it's like football. It's like basketball. If you don't play your A game, you're going to lose.
Right.
The
And there are
records don't
some
matter.
leagues where, the small school leagues where Aaron and I have, you don't have that as much. If a Colfax or 12 Bridges is playing a Lyndhurst, they could bring their C game and still probably win
Yeah.
comfortably. But
Yeah.
you're not getting that in the SFL. You're not getting that in the CAL, the FVL, any of those leagues. And Aaron, kind of throwing it back to you for the second half of your week. Where were you at?
So before I get into that, I want to just make it clear because we mentioned A's. I am no longer an A's fan. I have graduated from that. The city, unfortunately, that franchise is now dead to me for now moving to Vegas. I know we have 4 years. I'm not going to wait 4 years. I'm done. Secondly, I wanted to ask you, Jordan. You were at Golden One. What was like your favorite thing that you either saw or like favorite interview or like this thing you heard while you were there?
There was a guy there with a purple pool noodle sticking out of the back of his shirt that he called the beam. That's got to be up there. And then it was even funnier when I saw the pool noodle and I was like, oh, that's cool. And the guy turned around and it was actually a mutual friend of a family friend of ours.
Oh, that's
I was
amazing.
like, oh, okay, that's even weirder. I know the guy. But so
great.
that was there. I think too, a lot of it, I mean, just the passion you saw from a lot of Kings fans, just happy to be there. I know there's been a lot of trash talk online, and I know Twitter has gotten a little out of hand sometimes, but for the most part, it actually, it felt like a city that was just happy to finally cheer for a team that's a winner. And I think a lot of Kings fans have hit the point where, no matter what happens this series, I think everyone's just happy that, the team's finally good again and that they're set up great for a few years. And I think just the energy around the arena that night of, just it felt like a giant weight lifted off the chest of the entire city in a way.
And they proved they can compete in the playoffs too. And yeah, I'm with you on Twitter. If I didn't post all my updates for sporting events on there, I probably wouldn't have that. But I digress. Anyways, getting into the rest of my week. Friday, as I mentioned last week, I was at a ton. Now, I still ended up doing about as much as I was going to, but one thing ended up getting changed because I tried to go to SFL swim at Granite Bay. The meet started at 10. I wasn't going to get there right at 10. I tried to get there at 11. I think I would have had to get there at 9:30 if I was going to realistically be able to cover that because I get there, the entire street leading up to the high school full of cars outside of the fire lanes. And so I'm immediately thinking, okay, there's going to be no space in the parking lot. The parking lot is filled. There's people parking in places that aren't even parking spaces. So I'm like, okay, well, this is not happening. So I made a modifier. I was like, okay, well, I was going to go to West Park, cover FVL. Well, Wood Creek CVC, realistically, one of the best pools probably in the CVC is at Wood Creek. So let me go over and see if that's going on. Wouldn't you know, it was going on. So I went over to there, covered that for about 45 minutes and took some photos. And then I went over to West Park for the FVL for about an hour to take pics and get some results, grab some lunch, and then went over to Lincoln to announce Lincoln Oakmont baseball. Vikings took the second game in Roseville the day prior, and then they went up 11-3 in this game. However, the Zebras fought back. They stormed back in the sixth inning and scored 8 runs off 4 hits. Oakmont walked multiple guys. I think they had it was at least 2 pitchers in the same inning. Maybe it was even 3. There was an error as well, but Oakmont did go on to score in the 7th to win 12-11. So a heck of a game, heck of a series. Once again, proves how competitive the FVL is. KC Tibbetts for Oakmont had 3 RBIs. Jaden Perkins and Cooper Kunis had 2 RBIs. After that game, I covered Oakmont and Lincoln, but this time the roles were flipped, and I had to travel out to Roseville to Oakmont to cover La Crosse against Lincoln in another tight competitive game. This one actually went into triple overtime. I had not covered an overtime game all year or seen an overtime result all year, and this one goes into triple OT. So basically in La Crosse, and I could have this wrong, but the way I understand how overtime works is it's a 4-minute overtime period. And Jordan, I think you were in an overtime game, so you can correct me if I'm wrong here.
My first game was an overtime game.
Yeah, that's right. I think the first period of overtime, they play the full 4 minutes regardless if they score. And then if it goes into extra overtime periods, the first score wins. It's like a golden goal. Unless it's golden goal right away. I could be wrong on that. Do you know?
I was at, I'm pretty sure it was golden goal right away because Bella
Okay.
Vista scored pretty quick. My understanding is it's essentially like hockey playoff overtime where it's just, we're going to keep playing overtime till someone scores, and we're hopefully not going to get like a Blue Jackets Lightning situation where they go into like 5 overtimes and the game takes 8 hours.
That's what I was worried about here, man. I was like, man, I had a movie to go see. So there was no score in the first 2 periods of overtime, triple overtime. Lincoln wins 7-6 with an Isaiah Eberhardt goal 85 seconds into the triple overtime period. Eberhardt had 3 goals in the game. Beck Van Stralen, wanted to shout him out. He's a junior on the team. He started the season as an attacker, but he's actually now on goal because of a knee injury, and he had 9 saves. And even with a knee injury, he was running out there making some plays. Michael Dallas scored twice. He's actually committed to the University of Oregon. I'll be doing an article on him pretty soon. Gianni Faria scored a goal, and then Sean Cotton scored a goal. That was the 3rd win of the season for the Zebras. They went on to defeat Grant on Monday. So that was my Friday. So a lot on that Friday, and then I can get into Monday because we're recording this on Tuesday. Yesterday, I was at Rockland High for girls lacrosse against Wood Creek, and the Lady Thunder won their 4th game of the season, 18-10, behind 7 goals from Avery Wilkins. Huge game for her. For Wood Creek, Haley Lawson and Addie Strong both had 4 goals. Rockland did a great job with ground balls, was very quick on the attacking front. Wood Creek really struggled offensively in the first half, really started to get things going in the second half, but it was just too little too late. And so, yeah, now we have some league tournaments this week for boys and girls lacrosse. I'm interested to see how those go.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that lacrosse actually does a league tournament too. I've kind of said there's certain sports that I feel like don't need it, but I would love if we did like a league tournament in some of these sports, like a top 4 in baseball and softball, a top 4 in basketball, stuff like that, where especially leagues like we have this year where everything's so competitive. I think it'd be kind of fun to get, a league tournament together in that last week and then just push the championships 1 week back.
That'd be cool.
That would be. Matt, what about you? Where were you at the second half of the week?
Thursday, I was at Folsom High. Watched them play Oak Ridge in softball. Game was tied 1-1 in the 6th inning, so a competitive game. But Oak Ridge won 5. They ended up winning 5-1. Scored 3 runs in the 6th inning and added another one in the 7th. And it all started with their number 9 hitter. And I told them to talk about Oak Ridge here a little bit lately. They're really coming on. They beat Granite Bay Saturday, and they play them again today. So there's a good chance for them to pick up another game on them. But it started with their number 9 hitter, Carmen Montes de Oca, who hit a 1-out single center field. And leadoff Jess Zelensky followed with a single up the middle. And then Carly Short walked. Brooklyn Parator was hit by a pitch. Emily Glasser hit a 2-run single down the right field line, make it 4-1. So Folsom continues to struggle. And they're struggling offensively. Their pitching is there. Defense hurts them. Their defense hurts them because when they commit an error and it allows a run, it's because they're not scoring runs. So it's kind of a double whammy there. But pitching and defense have to improve for the Bulldogs. Friday, I went to Cover Vista because I knew I was going to Folsom Oak Ridge on Monday, so I went to Cover Vista again, and they lost 13-3 to Rio. But yesterday was quite a game. Folsom and Oak Ridge had quite a first game here to start their series. Oak Ridge take a 2-0 lead to Jake Fields at a 2-run home run in the 4th inning. Take a 2-0 lead. Folsom came back, scored a run. Oak Ridge scored the next run, and then Folsom scored a run. So it's 3-2 going into the seventh inning, and 2 outs. Folsom had a run on first base, and the leadoff hitter Colin Gallagher was up. So Gallagher rips one down on left field line, and pitcher under Brandon Matula's on first base, 2 outs. So he's running. Left fielder gets to the ball and he bobbles it. And as soon as he bobbles it, Ryan Castillo sends Matula running home, and Dylan Westbrook overthrows the cutoff man, but the pitcher Jake Fields, who you guys know baseball, he should be behind home plate backing up the catcher. He's not. He's standing there just running the third baseline, catches the relay, and gets it down to the catcher Carson Nichols. Collision at the plate. He's out. Oak Ridge wins 3-2. But it's funny, Folsom is like, hey, we did everything right, and we lost the game because their player was in the wrong positions. So it's kind of funny.
Baseball is a cruel game.
Yeah, and he said, I asked him, I said, why were you? He goes, I know I should have been backing up the catcher, but I just figured, if whether Callahan's on second or third, he's going to score anyway. So I just kind of hung out there, and I'm glad I did.
I like it. I mean, that sounds like a movie ending.
It was a great game. It really was good. I mean, Oak Ridge had several. I mean, there's a lot of good plays by both teams in that game. So we'll see what game 2 and game 3 has in store for those guys.
Definitely. And second half of my week, it was kind of a calm week because we were actually working on the Little League edition. So there was only one result I really caught at the end of the week, or a couple of results I guess I caught. But Placer boys tennis clinched their I think 500th league title in a row. It's got to be something like that. I asked the head coach, Tom Isaac, who's been there for about 20 years, I go, how many league championships in a row has this been? I think he's actually been there over 20 years. And he said, we have never not won league while I'm here. So I'm like, okay, I'll just say a lot. But credit to Nevada Union. Placer beat them 7-2 in this one. Placer had won its previous 7 league matches 9-0. So NU taking 2 individual matchups of that, that's got to feel good. It's interesting because I know that people probably don't think of Auburn. I mean, it's up the hill a little bit, but they don't think of Auburn when they think of elevation. But, Coach Isaac was talking about how, winning the league now, that gives you a home field advantage in a different way of, he's like, yeah, Auburn's playing at 1,200 feet, which isn't a ton, but if you're coming from a place that's sitting at 200 feet above sea level or 100 feet, and you're coming off a 2-hour drive, like that's a huge advantage for you right there. And, it kind of brought up some good points of, how important it is for them to be winning those league titles and having something like that. Placer closes out their regular season with home matches against West Park and Oakmont. They play West Park today, Oakmont on Thursday. I imagine those are going to be 2 more wins. Oakmont is a pretty solid program, though, so I could see Oakmont maybe giving them some trouble. But, yeah, an impressive run for Placer. And then Placer track had a big week, too, and they're essentially going for a league title today against Ponderosa. So that's a big one there. Julian Doak broke a school record for the Hillman. I have to look up what it was in again. I had it bookmarked on Twitter, but he was a big performance as well. Let me see what it was real quick. I'm pulling it up. This is great airtime right here. But he broke a school record in the 1,600 meters, 4:11. So a 4-minute, 11-second mile, which is about what it would take me to run 1 lap around that track. So good job, Julian. And he's going to be going next year to be running track at, I want to say, it was UC Berkeley. I remember it was Pac-12. So UC Berkeley next year. So Pac-12 talent doing big things for the Hillmen as they push for another league title. And then Friday night, I actually had the night off and I checked out a River Cats game. So that was a nice little night off. But hey, that's for the high schools. That was it. There was, some of the best performances I saw. Oh, Aaron, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, did I see on your social media, I forget if it was on Twitter or Facebook, that you got to go in the press box of that game?
Yeah, so they wanted to up our coverage for the things. I was planning on checking out the game either way. But I had they had me apply for a press pass with the River Cats, so I picked it up in the situation. I picked it up and checked out the press box, and
Nice,
it was
cool.
a good time. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, getting back to the performances, athlete of the week. Julian Doak was close to it for breaking that school record. But I have to say the best performance I saw this week came from Bear River freshman Caden Nichols, who threw a no-hitter against Center on Tuesday. It's impressive to throw a no-hitter at any age. It's even more impressive to be a freshman on varsity, and it's probably the most impressive to be throwing a no-hitter as a freshman on varsity. Bear River swept the Cougars both games 6-0 and 12-8. Nichols struck out 13 in that game. He also had an RBI and a triple for the Bruins. But what's funny is his RBI didn't come on the triple. He actually got hit by a pitch with the bases loaded. So talk about taking one for the team. But hey, that RBI was the first run of the game. Talk about wearing one to create your own run support. So good performance from him. Caden Nichols, you are my athlete of the week. And then also a shout out to Sadie Whaley of Forest Lake Christian. She was a standout for their basketball team. Averaged 18.4 points per game. She just signed with Arizona Christian yesterday. So congratulations to her. Aaron, over to you. What were some of the best performances you saw this week?
Well, I'll let the viewers decide, but I've got a performance that almost mirror images rivals what Jordan's is, and that's for my South Plaza area. It's not a freshman, but it's a sophomore. Wood Creek sophomore Marin McNeil in softball. She pitched a no-hitter with 5 strikeouts in a 5-inning win, a victory over Bella Vista last Wednesday. She also had a home run and 4 RBIs in the win. So you could go either way in terms of who had a better performance there. But great performances from both, obviously, Nichols and then McNeil. Wood Creek's 5-0 undefeated in the CVC this season. Marin actually leads the team in home runs and RBIs as well. So she's all over the place. And that team's looking really good. It's funny. I said it at the end of last season, because they made it to playoffs, but I knew that they were losing a few players. I was like, I don't know how good this team's going to be next year, and they're out there leading the CVC and doing a great job. So I'm interested to, see Wood Creek's softball and see how far they can go. And then for Lincoln, I've also got a pitcher as well. Didn't quite have a no-hitter. It was a one-hitter. 12 Bridges junior pitcher Matt Henry pitched a complete game with 10 strikeouts in a win over Marysville last Tuesday.
All right, I like it. Matt, over to you. What were some of the best you saw?
Hey, I didn't have a no-hitter, but I went with Oak Ridge pitcher Ellison Schrader. She's pitched almost every game for Oak Ridge this year, except 1 or 2. She's there's 6-6 record, 1.85 ERA, 87 innings of work. She's allowed 77 hits, 23 earned runs, and struck out 93 batters. Opponents are hitting 226 against her, and Oak Ridge has been coming on, and she's one of the reasons why. So she's my athlete of the week.
All right, I like it. And I did actually forget one shout out. He's not my athlete of the week, but and I don't want to one up any of the other no-hitters. But Sierra Foothills Little League AAA pitcher Hudson Whaley, who is actually the younger brother of Sadie Whaley, who just signed, actually threw a perfect game on Tuesday against Nevada City. So congratulations to him. A perfect game. I mean, I can't even do that in a video game, and this kid's doing it in games. So I did want to give a shout out to that, because the moment I stopped talking, I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to shout him out. So I mean, people need to start getting hits. What's going on here? I mean, too many no hitters and perfect games going on. But this week's another big week. I know I don't have, I guess, a set game plan yet for games I'm going to be at. So I'm just going to talk about some big series, because, a lot of where I'm going to be at, especially in the second half of the week, is going to determine how game 1 of some of these series goes. So a couple big ones in PVL softball. Colfax and Wheatland play. Both teams tied for second, I believe, in a league that only has 3 playoff spots. And Marysville and Bear River are close behind in 3rd and 4th. In 4th and 5th. So, that's going to be a big one. They play on Wednesday and Friday. I think I'm going to be at Wednesday's game in Wheatland. And then Del Oro's got a big softball week coming up. They've got Whitney on Tuesday. They're the only SFL team to beat them. They're playing at home, and they got a home one against Oak Ridge this week as well. So big SFL softball weekend coming up, and then a massive baseball series in the PVL between Placer and West Park, two of the 4 and 5 teams. I mean, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's safe to say the winner of this series is probably in the playoffs, and the loser is probably outside looking in when it's all said and done. So
I'd agree.
that's going to be a big one, and then Del Oro baseball too, a big one with Whitney this week. So that's another fun one to keep an eye on. Dio played him close the other day, and hey, after last week against Oak Ridge, I wouldn't be shocked to see Del Oro take a game in this. But Whitney is a whole nother devil, and they're going to be a solid team. So big games to choose from there. And yeah, some big track and field coming up, some big tennis coming up. I mentioned Placer and Oakmont. So a very busy week up here on the hill. And then this weekend, I've got another crazy weekend. So listen to this. So we have this ultra marathon run called the Canyons that comes into Auburn every year. It's a big event. So I'm going to be there Friday morning at 9 a.m. for the 100-mile run. I'll be back in Auburn on Saturday at 5 a.m. for the start of their 100K run. But get this, Friday night, I'm going to be at the rodeo in downtown Auburn on Friday. I'll be back there on Sunday a little bit for some action. Saturday night is Placer High School's Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony as well. So a very busy weekend up there. So, high school sports, I'm going to be following as much as I can, but got a lot on the plate up here up the hill. So, Aaron, what about you? Where are you going to be this week?
Yeah, my week is kind of a question mark right now for other reasons. But yeah, a couple of big series that I'm going to kind of be looking at. Bella Vista Wood Creek baseball should be a really good series. Nevada Union Oakmont should be another good baseball series out there. But in terms of things that I may hit this week, a lot of it is going to be Lincoln this week, and part of it just comes down to senior nights for announcing. So tonight is Lincoln High Stunt. They're actually facing Ponderosa and 12 Bridges. And so I may be able to go over and announce that and check that out. Tomorrow, I may be announcing senior night for Lincoln High's boys lacrosse team as they face the Wood Creek boys team. Wood Creek's boys have a really good team. Camden Trones, for them, I think I shouted him out last week, over 100 goals, 100 assists in his varsity career. I think he's got he's definitely got 20 goals and 20 assists. He may be 30 and 30 this season. I'd have to look again, but he's been playing great. Thursday, likely covering softball with Lincoln and Nevada Union. Not 100% sure on that yet, though. And then Friday is kind of up in the air for me. I could go Del Oro Oakmont softball, depending on when that game starts. I have to check on the start time for that. Potentially Sierra College baseball against Delta in their final game of the regular season before the playoffs start. One thing that's for sure is on Saturday, I'll be announcing Lincoln Senior Night for baseball at McBean Park, which will be pretty cool for them to be able to play on the big field there. They're going to be taking on Valley Christian Academy, so that should be a good game. I'm expecting Lincoln to win. Next Monday is also a question mark because I may be going and covering a golf tournament for the SFL at Timber Creek. I may be saving my golf coverage for the week after when it comes to the D1, D2, D3 tournaments. So yeah, if we're recording next Monday, you'll know you'll know why. If we're recording next Tuesday, you'll know why. So that's kind of what I got going on.
All right, I like it. Matt, what about you? Where are you going to be at this week?
Well, today it's going to be probably checking out some of that Oak Ridge Granite Bay softball game, and then following that, there's a lacrosse. I think I don't know. I don't know.
We all have a lot going on, folks. It's hard to pick.
I don't know if lacrosse. I don't know if Oak Ridge plays tonight or not. So I'm kind of confused on that. But anyway, I know Thursday I got lacrosse because Oak Ridge girls are going to wrap up their title, their league title probably then. So I'm going to watch them Thursday, and Wednesday and Friday is just Folsom Oak Ridge. I'm not going to hit all 3 games, but I'll hit 2 of them. So I hit one Oak Ridge Folsom Wednesday or Friday, and I'm going to hit Vista softball. I get a doubleheader against Del Oro Thursday. I'll get game 1 there, and then go up the hill and check some Oak Ridge lacrosse out. And like I said, today I got Oak Ridge Granite Bay softball, and I know there's lacrosse after that, somewhere up in El Dorado Hills. So, and by the way, next Monday you should be checking out Oak Ridge and Whitney baseball. But if you're not, maybe I'll be there. So,
all right, I like it. It's like we said, it's one of those weeks where it feels like there's a million games going on. It's like I can only be one place, and then A lot of big games. I guess a testament to the teams in our area. I'd rather be covering have too many meaningful games to choose from than be sitting there going, man, I guess I'll cover this one.
We'll be there
So,
soon enough. We'll be there
yeah.
soon enough.
Yeah, we're about we're about a month away.
Month
But
out.
hey, maybe may all of our little league all-star teams carry us as close to football season as we can get. But I think that's going to just about kind of do it for this week's episode of the Sports Jam. Before we get going, does anyone have anything we want to add?
Warriors in 7.
Aaron, we just can't be speaking that blasphemy. It's going to be Kings in 7. De'Aaron Fox is going to hit a game winner off his broken index finger. He's going to tip it in with the splint at the buzzer in game 7 to win. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I've been Jordan.
I've been Aaron.
I've been Matt.
We will see you next time.